Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitbadger.com, out here with Peanut and a whole pile of new stuff for a first look. As I've probably mentioned in the past, kind of why bother doing a first look? Really more than anything to show you guys, the audience, like, hey, this stuff is coming down the road. Of course, I will eventually actually go out and use this stuff till I feel like I have the appropriate amount of time with it to do a full review. But we'll start with, because no one loves you, not enough attention. We'll go ahead and start with some pretty neat stuff by Leupold, Vortex, and Hawkins Precision. So occasionally you come across things that you really like, maybe as an idea, and who knows how, actually an application. And I'll be honest, some of this stuff is kind of that. And hopefully it turns out that it's amazing. In my mind, it's pretty amazing. So what do I mean by that? Hey, sit, stay. Well, the idea of a first focal plane paired with something that will give you accurate reading with respect to ranging, and a way to basically use those together in conjunction with each other. So typically you end up ranging something, you either dial or you hold, but go back from basically one to the other. And so right here, with respect to optics, I'll probably get that later, I have this guy right here, which is the Leupold, did I say Leupold? I always mispronounce it, but this is the Leupold Mk5 HD 3.6 to 18 first focal plane. And this has their Tremor 3 reticle, which I'll be honest, depending on how I was going to use this, it would potentially be kind of really busy for me. Like, there's a lot going on there. And keep in mind that it is first focal plane, so it grows and gets smaller depending on your magnification level. With that in mind, all reticles end up being a compromise. If it's second focal plane, it's a really good reticle, but it's only usable with respect to all of your holds at one power. If it's first focal plane, usually you give up something at the top or the bottom, usually at the bottom end. But being able to use that in conjunction with this. So this right here is the Vortex Impact 4000 ballistic rail-mounted laser rangefinder. It's a lot of words. Pretty cool. Right there and right here. So with this guy right here, not super light by the way, but pretty amazing, is a laser rangefinder, and on the back it actually, if I can actually talk, it gives you a display. This right here is a remote you can actually mount on your gun. And so then, to kind of piece all of this together, we have this right here by Hawkins Precision. And these are their, I want to say they're tactical, heavy tactical scope rings made out of 7075 and 6061 billet, hard coat finish, anodized, all of that stuff. And man, I guess I need that again. But what this will allow me to do is, one more. It'll allow me to mount this setup all together, probably on my Aero Solus, the one I went and built with Aero Precision, which is pretty cool. And man, this is awesome. So on the rings, one, super heavy duty, goes straight to 1913 and 35 millimeter, because that's what this optic is. Built-in bubble level, and then on the top, we have this diving board. And so when this is all set up and actually mounted up, I'm not gonna do in this first look video, I'll have this guy here, this guy will be mounted up there. And so I can either reach up on the unit or I can mount this remotely on the gun. So when I'm shooting it, basically look through the optic, hit that, it'll range it, and it'll range it incredibly precise. You actually end up zeroing this laser rangefinder. Reason being is it's really only zeroed at one plate. Like, it's super precise. So you zero this at 100 yards, meaning that if I come on here and I'm like, all right, I'm going up forever, and just start dialing this thing, where I'm looking will no longer align with where this is looking. So you end up zeroing this at 100 yards with this. And then as you go out, you never actually dial anything. And this having the Tremor 3 reticle, you can do all of your work inside of it. So hit that, boom, lasers it, again, leaving this thing on 0. And I move it up to whatever hold I want, break the shot, hit it again, lays next target, so on and so forth, which, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, as a concept, I think is incredibly fascinating to me. And I'm really looking forward to, with these guys right here, getting this thing all set up so I can actually use it like that. I think it's going to be pretty neat. There are times, I will say, I do find out that the idea of something doesn't really work necessarily the way I want it to, or maybe it works as intended, but again, not the way I want it to. I recently kind of come full circle with that thought process in slings. So from my buddy Kyle Lamb over at Viking Tactics, cool guy, man, he ended up sending out a couple slings, one of which is VTAC padded sling, the HYDURA. I believe it's it is a play on words as far as cordura and probably some other material. Looks like a sweet shirt too. So I will set that down there. Don't worry, it's not in the dirt. And here's what I mean by that. For a long time, I'm like, man, I really do not care for slings with a tail, because the tail ends up getting long, and now I have this extra material, especially depending on how tight I make it. The tail can end up getting really long, and now I have to adjust this thing back. It's really nice having a sling that is captured. And for the longest time, pretty much what you had was VTAC sling by Viking Tactics, and you had the sling by Blue Force Gear, which is captured. Both of them work. What I finally came to realize, though, is the compromise with respect to any of your captured slings. They work really good for most things. So think probably like 70%, maybe even like 95%, if really all you do is just kind of sling your gun and basically a holster for your gun at the range. Totally fine. As soon as you get into doing things, i.e. actually wanting to, either cinch your gun down to the point where it will not move, or loosen it up to where you can very easily transition shoulders, or end up basically building really good tight shooting positions involving your sling, it kind of falls apart. Because with those slings that have a captured end, so there's no loose tail, which it's a cost of doing business, come to find out, with those, you only have so much adjustment. So if you have it adjusted to where you can cinch it down and it's really tight to your body, one, it'll probably be never as tight as this. And if it is that tight, then you are giving up something on the other end, because now you don't have enough adjustment to do maybe other things you would want to do with it. So full circle, you can actually try this one out. While he has a bunch of different slings, this is one of them. And they're largely the same with respect to how they actually function. Is in a loose tail that, I say loose tail, it ends up getting longer coming away from the sling, not captured other than this piece right here. So if you need to actually crank this thing down, basically you need to just undo that Velcro, I'm imagining, and then it's bound. So if you want to loosen it, you actually have to defeat some retention. So yeah, gonna put this on a gun, probably make its way through numerous different guns, and see how this does for me. And last but not least, have some stuff right here from our friends over at Hill People Gear and over from Aute. I always mispronounce it, but dig into this one real quick. I actually saw these at SHOT Show 2024. Pretty excited to put hands on them. And I guess, yeah, continue with these right here. These are their combat pant, downrange pant, combat pant, and they're pretty neat. Like I'm always interested to see where people go with pants, because different pocket layout, different material, to include like their knees, like kind of wild, and which is actually really nice, built-in knee pads. So I'm looking forward to putting in time with these guys. May end up wearing them over at Finish Brutality, not sure yet, but yeah, pretty cool. Like I said, saw these at SHOT Show, tons and tons of features built into them, more than I'm gonna go over right this second. And yeah, all the different colors too. I say all of them, like multi-cams, I believe, to include this one, which is their brown field drab. And then something else that is cool, sun shirts. These are especially cool. Why? Because I got all cut up to include on my head from a dermatologist cutting out skin cancer. And yeah, being able to just throw something on, being protected from the sun, pretty ideal. And yeah, they do a pretty good job with some pretty fun patterns, things like that. So definitely spend more time with that this summer. And now, lastly, oh, I just cut it in half. Just kidding. Be a bummer if I did. So we have this to include these stays, which probably bend to fit myself. And this right here is a pack from Hill People Gear. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the name in the video because I'm totally spacing on it right now. And I would probably mispronounce it anyway. This, I will say, is one of their biggest packs. When I say biggest, like kind of volume-wise, I think they might have one that's actually a little bit bigger. The reason I went for this is I was looking dimensionally, it'll fit my camera case. I have a hard Pelican case, which pretty much goes with me everywhere because my camera is pretty important. And my camera case turns into a seat and everything else out in the backcountry. So this will actually fit it. And things I'm excited about is Hill People Gear has done a really good job of just kind of reimagining a suspension system. As you can even see in here, like, this is wild. I'm actually gonna have to learn how to use this thing, but it's pretty cool. Basically, the way they are able to shift how you end up carrying the weight, and yeah, they do a really neat job with stuff. I've used some of their stuff in the past, whether it's their Tarahumara, probably mispronouncing that, as well as like all their kit bags, runner's kit bag, different ones like that. And yeah, they make some really neat gear actually made for spending time in the mountains, because the owners spend a lot of time out in the mountains and make meaningful improvements to, yeah, basically just filling white space where things are not being addressed. So looking forward to putting in time with this. As far as me losing my train of thought, that's real. But as I put in more time, or time period, with all this stuff, and when I get enough time using it in a meaningful way, bring you guys reviews on all this stuff. And if you're interested, there'll be links down below. You can go check it all out. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.